Happy New Year's, everyone, and welcome to the very first video of 2026. And I thought let's start off this year with a small little homestead tour, see what's happening at the homestead, what is growing, and how to use these crops. So let's go on a small little homestead tour. So before we start today's video, I just want to give a big shout out to every single one of you that followed me on YouTube this year. We are nearly at 1,000 subscribers. So thank you very, very much for your comments, your likes, and for joining our small little team here. And so today I just want to show you what I'm grateful for and what we're growing at the homestead. We are growing so many different varieties of tomatoes, as well as trying kohlrabi and corn for the first time in our raised beds, and just want to show you how they've been doing over this season. So I thought let's start the tour off with our tomatoes. You guys know how much I love tomatoes. I love eating them fresh off the vine, and I love making things like sun-dried tomatoes where I preserve them in olive oil. So I thought let's be daring this season and try some new varieties to try and see if I can't make things like tomato sauces. And so I've tried different varieties, and this is a red cherry tomato. They are obviously small little red cherry tomatoes, and I love them because they're indeterminate tomatoes, which means that they keep producing throughout the season, and you can see how small they are still. So they've got a lot of growing to do, and I love using them in salads. But also there's a dish that I love making where I take a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes, stick it in the oven with some garlic cloves and some feta, and then when they're all soft, I like to mix it and make a beautiful sauce and throw it over some pasta. So that is how I like utilizing cherry tomatoes if I have too much of them. But another way of preserving them is a lot of people like to freeze them. I'm not a big fan of freezing tomatoes, only because I don't use them for saucing. But I've gone and bought varieties where I can go and sauce them. I do have another tomato plant here, and I just got that one growing at the back over there, and it's got some beautiful tomatoes on. And so in this bed we've got the corn, which I'm going to just flip the camera around and show you how awesome they're doing and what we're going to do next season. Okay, so in this bed, as I said, we've got the corn. Look how amazing these corns actually look. So you can see there's the corn there, and there's another nice big one over there. So each corn has two cobs. I think you call them cobs, millies. We call them millies. And you've got your first one, which you can see is growing there, and then you always got a second one on the other side. It's supposed to be below it, and there it is there. And so one gets harvest before the other one. I've only learned that because I haven't really grown corn as well as I have this season. So next season definitely will be better. So if you guys remember last season, I had the corn in test bags. I had it in a grow bag and in a container. And last year in the container, it did pretty well. But I decided to try it out in the raised beds, and raised beds once again has won. I have had the best success growing corn. All 6 that I planted has all germinated and grown into beautiful millie plants. So in South Africa we call them millies. I'm not sure what you call it overseas, but we call them millies. And so what you do with your millies is you can boil them and eat them like it is, or you can take the millies off your cob and freeze them. It's a great crop to have in your garden because you can preserve them. And so next season, we're going to put all the millies in this bed. And you can see this bed is a little bit bigger than that bed. And I can put 3 millies going across. And I think we counted about 14 millies that we can actually stick in this raised beds, because millies can be planted quite close to each other. So next season, they're all getting planted here underneath. We're going to have the squashes and the melons growing, and that is a beautiful combination. So this season was a test in the raised beds. It won once again, and next season we can just move forward, millie bed. Okay, so now that I got sidetracked, let's go back and talking about tomatoes. So you can see how beautiful these tomatoes look. They're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, this is our sandwich tomato. It is the Alyssa Craig. It's a huge tomato. That's why it's for sandwiches. And I think it's low in acidity. It's something that I look out for, is tomatoes with low acidity in. But I think it has a hint of fruitiness, and I chose it because of what I read up, and so that is why I'm testing it out. If I like it, it stays at the homestead, and if we don't, at least we've tried it out. But there is a few other varieties that I have purchased, so this is the very first one, and obviously I'll be using it on sandwiches, and I think you can make it into a sauce. I'm not 100% sure, but why not? So here is the next tomato plant. This is the big paste. I think it's the Carol big paste, and you can see how beautiful this tomato looks. It's a sauce tomato, and to me it looks a little bit like a jam tomato. They're looking amazing, and they will start ripening, and I can't wait because this is the first time also growing this tomato. A branch fell off, and I kind of like just potted it in here, and one at the back. Don't know if you can see it there. So we've got 3 of these plants growing here, and I've actually not even taken any of the suckers off. I've just let it grow right next to my peas. But this is another variety that we are trying out. This one is more for sauces. And then in this beautiful bed that is being absolutely shown off, we've got, I think this is another cherry tomato, red cherry tomato. And so it is doing absolutely amazing as well. And I think there's another tomato plant. There it is, right here. So there's a few of the red cherry tomatoes in this bed. And then we come to this bed, and I've got different varieties in here as well. Is where I'm growing the blueberry cherry tomatoes. And if you look on top, you can see that it has some purple on top. And what will happen is the bottom will slowly go red, and the top will stay like an indigo purple color. And the reason I love this cherry tomato, which is called the blueberry cherry tomato, is that it is very low in acidity. And so I love just eating them off the vines. I love throwing them in salads. I make a nice egg salad, and I add this into it. And it's an indeterminate plant, and it basically just gives and gives. I do have another 2 over there. They did very bad for some reason in the other bed. Something hit it, and the leaves just started drying out and wilting. So I literally just cut them down totally to see if they would regrow, because more than 1 cherry tomato for the blueberries is needed here. But if not, we'll just take this cherry tomato, get the seeds, and do another batch of seedlings. We also got some other tomatoes here. We've got something called a Roma tomato. It's the first time that I am actually planting this at the homestead. I see there is 4, so I'm not sure what happened to the other 2, but I grew them because they are fantastic to make sun-dried tomatoes with. I normally make sun-dried tomatoes with jam tomatoes, but my jam tomatoes didn't take, so Roma tomatoes it is. And I've been trying to get the suckers off. I think I see a sucker right here. So a sucker is, you can see this is your main stem, then you've got a branch. The sucker is what comes out in the middle, and I just take them off just so that my plants are clean and that there's airflow and that it trellies nicely and I get more production off the plants. And so we have 4 of them, and I got a funny feeling this is also a Roma. I think one of the branches fell off or got snapped, and I replanted it and you can see it's taken. So I just need to put a trellis on this one. And then at the back here is a volunteer tomato plant that just popped up. I'm not sure what it is until I see the tomato. So it's either a blueberry cherry tomato or a red cherry tomato. And it's 90% of my plants are indeterminate plants because I like to get tomatoes throughout the season. But these are the tomatoes that I'm growing and they are doing fine. They are healthy and all of them are producing flowers. So that is absolutely amazing. So basically that is all the tomatoes we're growing here, but I just wanted to show you something. Busy doing my rounds and I came across another tomato plant. So I'm not sure what variety this is, but it must be a tomato that I took off the plant that wasn't looking too good. Left it in the pot and it's a self-seeded. So I'm going to leave that and see what variety that is. It's probably a blueberry cherry tomato because these are the very first ones to actually normally produce fruit at the homestead. But while we're on this side, we need to show off our butternut because they are doing absolutely fantastic. Look how tall they are now, and they were growing the same time. I think I grew about 4 or 5 seeds and I gave 1 to a friend of mine and I gave the other 2 to my neighbor Norma. They also got a little homestead there, like a little place where you can grow stuff, and they love growing stuff there. So I always bless them with some stuff that I have too many, especially with seeds where I try and grow more than 2 or 3 depending if I want to. Then whatever has germinated extra I will give them because sometimes not everything germinates. So I've got them in a pot like this and you can see that they're doing amazing. We've had quite a lot of rain in the last 2 months, so what has been happening is that the little baby butternuts have been falling off, going yellow and falling off, and if I do see them go yellow I basically take them off just so that the energy stops focusing on trying to produce that fruit. And I think this might mature. If not, it's fine because this plant is still very young. It will start throwing out some more flowers and more fruits. So it's still, to me, quite young. It is going to eventually trellis up there and all under there. And you can see I've gone and put some mesh under the hothouse there, just so that it can start falling under it, because that's how big this thing is going to grow. And then we've also got the loofah that will be trailing on that piece there, and the loofah is doing well. So right now the loofah is small, but we know how massive loofahs can get. The vines start thickening and all that, so right now everything is still very small. January and February is where you'll start seeing an explosion in these two fruits. So let's turn the camera around and show you some more stuff happening at the homestead. Okay, over here on my trellis we have climbing beans, and then over here we got the Barletta bush beans, and these guys will start swelling up. What I actually want to do is I'm going to let them all dry out, and then I put them in a glass jar, and then I make these most awesome bean curries with some beef in it, or throw it in and make a stew. So this is what I'm using my beans for, is mostly stews. And once they dry out, I'll be able to get all the beans out from inside. But you can see these guys are nowhere near dry. And I've got another bush at the back there. And over here, this is apparently my zebra molly beans. Once they start drying out, I'm going to do the same thing. Let them dry out and put them in bottles and make bean curry and bean stew out of them. But the beans are actually so nice inside. They are so cute. They look like little zebras, zebra skins, zebra patterns, should I say. And these guys, I remember when I grew them the first time, I made a beautiful beef stew and put them in, and my family loved them. So I've been able to find some beans. Last season they did not have any of the beans available, but there I've got some molly beans growing again. So over here we've got some patty pans, and you can see I've got two here that I've just let they've decided to crisscross. And the plan was to actually trellis them up and then tie them, but it wasn't really working out that way. They decided that they like to go over the herb box, the raised box, and it works perfectly because they're not sitting on the soil. And I have loads of patty pans coming out, the best ever. I've already harvested 3 off them. So with your patty pans, if you don't eat too much patty pans, what you can do with them, which I actually do, is that I actually grate them and I put them in my stir fries. They are awesome in stir fries and they absolutely do the job. You can put them in rice stir fry, and egg stir fry, and noodle stir fry, and they all do a absolutely awesome job in them. Also, you can put them, so cut them in half and put them in stews. You can make a veggie roast with them, where you throw them with your butternut and marrows and peppers and some baby potatoes. Put some spices and roast them. They taste absolutely amazing in them. So you can't go wrong with patty pans. You can do it in so many different ways. I've seen some people scoop the inside out and put some mince in them with cheese on top, and then close it back and roast them. So maybe I'll try that next, but we've only got 2 of these plants. So I try and do a lot of intentional growing, which means grow things that I am going to eat. So I've been doing a lot of intentional growing, where I grow crops where I'm actually going to eat from and preserve from, and nothing goes to waste. If I have an abundance and there's just so much that I've already preserved, then I just bless friends and family with them, and that is absolutely perfect. So the next crop I want to talk about is kale. Okay, so in this bed we've got I think 3 different types of kale, and kale is always needed at our homestead. We have animals that love kale, and so I decided to try, I think it's called the dazzling blue or purple kale. This is the first time that I grew this one, and it seems to be doing great. What I love about it is the purple veins in the middle. It looks so awesome. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful kale. Next kale is your choy malo. My favorite kale because it's something that everybody at the homestead loves. I love putting this one in stir fries. And we had a whole bunch, but they weren't doing too well, so I chopped them down. This is from the original. You can see how it's split. And if I cut it, it'll just keep on producing new shoots on the side, and it's still doing pretty well. But this is our new one. I did have another one somewhere. I just don't know where I put it in the garden. Can't seem to find it. But that is another variety. And then your curly kale, which is the most popular one. So kohlrabi is something I have never ever tasted in my whole entire life. I've seen it on social media and they look like little alien plants. But when I went in 2023 to Cyprus, I saw a whole bunch of veggies and fruits that I've never ever seen, and I tasted them. And I saw the kohlrabi, and my sister grabbed one and said, you have to try it. So the way she prepped it for me was she actually sliced it and then made little strips and then bought a beautiful dip, which then I tried the kohlrabi and I fell in love with it straight away. It is so nice, refreshing, and really nice in summer. So I'm so happy that I found seeds and I was able to actually have some kohlrabi in my own homestead. And this is the first time growing it successfully. The first time I tried was last year and I wasn't successful at all. There was something attacking my plants, and I think I planted it a little bit too late. But this time I decided to plant it in late winter, and in spring they're all seeded, and now it's summer and it's starting to bulk up into that beautiful kohlrabi. And yeah, kohlrabi is part of the brassicas family, and you can taste a hint of like broccoli in it, but it's really, really refreshing. And I don't know how else to cook with it. As I said, it's the first time growing this, but it's definitely something I want my family to try, and hopefully they like it. This is one of our kohlrabis. It is starting to form very nicely, and you can see that bulk head is perfect. And that one's starting slowly, and you have a few at the back there as well. I'll quickly show you another one. There's another one. This is the biggest one, and it's the first one to have developed. And unfortunately, I had to keep this one in this raised bed without taking it out because it had already developed into this beautiful bulb. But it's not supposed to be in this bed. And unfortunately, I had to take all the other kohlrabis out. They were still young, so it was still fine. This one I couldn't take out because the bulb has already developed and it's just starting to size up. But in this bed, I have cucumbers and tomatoes. This bed was originally for the kohlrabis and the kale and all that, but there wasn't too much sun coming through to this raised bed. And I also decided to put some cucumber seeds at the back, not thinking it would germinate, and all of them kind of like germinated. So then I took out the kohlrabi. So kohlrabi is part of the brassica family, which belongs to the cabbage and that, and broccoli, and they don't like to be grown near cucumbers and tomatoes or the other way around. They do attract a lot of aphids. Cucumbers and tomatoes love being grown in the same raised bed, but not a kohlrabi or your cabbage or your broccoli. But I've left that one, and it shouldn't be a problem. And then I just transferred them all to this raised bed, and these guys are drooping, but they will start perking up. And you can see I've got some baby ones there. So it's now stages, succession planting, and I'm absolutely chuffed. Cannot wait to start eating these guys. So this is the other bed of cucumbers, and we've got two varieties. We've got the burpless and the Ashley, and you can see how crazy this bed is going. So what we want to do with all our cucumbers, besides eating them fresh, is we want to actually make like pickled cucumbers. And just to let you know that pickled cucumbers and gherkins are closely related, but they're not exactly the same. So I'm just going to break it down quickly so that you know when I say I want to make pickled cucumbers, what is the difference. So with the pickled cucumbers, you can ferment them. And I think last year when I tried my own pickled cucumbers, they actually got a bit of a fermentation going on, because when I opened the jar, I saw all these bubbles and they were quite sour, but it was absolutely still worth trying out. And also you can just put them in vinegar, where gherkins are mostly in vinegar and bottled, and definitely not fermented, that I've learned. So pickled cucumbers are normally larger. They are made from regular cucumbers like I'm growing right now, and you just slice them and you pickle them in whatever variety of pickles you're going to choose. They do have a thicker skin, and they still taste very, very nice. Where gherkins is much smaller, and they're normally grown from a Pacific cucumber, normally called gherkin cucumbers. They harvest very small, and they are pickled in a way where you see in the shops, small little pickled cucumbers. They're about 1 to 3 inches in length, and that is the difference between the cucumbers. So you can see mine is already quite big, and we're going to do a bit of a harvest. I think I'm going to make some salad from the garden. We've got the tomatoes, we've got the cucumbers, we got the lettuce, and we'll see what other herbs that we can make a nice dressing and make our own salad. But today we are definitely going to be harvesting our cucumbers. So for Christmas, my sister-in-law bought me a pair of lasher pruners, and I've been using them in the garden today, and they're absolutely amazing. So I got to harvest a whole bunch of stuff, and this is my zebra molly beans, and you can actually harvest them fresh like this and cook them. So I've just got a whole bunch, also because our animals like beans, and it's quite a nice little chomp for them. So it's a win-win situation there. Only harvest 2 of my cucumbers, so just remember that if you're pickling them, just to get a rough sponge and just take all these little prickles off, because you don't want to be eating them. but one in a salad and maybe pickle some on the side there. Also decided to grab 2 varieties of lettuce because that is going in my salad with my cucumbers, and then a whole bunch of herbs. So remember I said my favorite herb is the Vietnamese coriander, and I can't describe the smell. It is absolutely an amazing aroma. And then what I've also got here is oregano, because I'll be making my own salad dressing and oregano is absolutely perfect in that. And then some kale. So that is my little harvest, which is quite green and beautiful and fresh from the garden, and we're going to eat from it tonight. So that's absolutely a blessing for me. I absolutely love growing things, harvesting it and reaping the rewards. In 2026, I hope that you guys have an amazing journey in your homestead if you are starting to get started here. And take a look at this next video. It will get you going if you're starting your homestead for the first time. I'll see you there.